The sleek shuttle glided effortlessly toward the towering spires of Kelda, the capital city of the once independent planet Braccalis. Inside the craft, Commander Alec Ralston took one final glance at his sharp black uniform, ensuring every detail was in place. His tall, muscular frame filled the Federation's formal attire with ease, though he would have preferred his usual battle gear. Approaching Royal Landing Pad, the pilot, Nara, called out. Local time is early afternoon. Atmospheric conditions are optimal. Alec nodded, mentally going over his mission, deliver condolences from the Federation and discuss their future plans with Princess Alyssa following the unexpected death of King Zephyr. It seemed straightforward, but nothing about this mission felt ordinary. The Federation didn't usually send military officers on diplomatic tasks, especially not to isolated planets like Braccalis. Quick in and out, he muttered to himself. No complications. The shuttle landed with barely a bump. As the ramp lowered, Alex stepped into the warm daylight. Waiting for him on the landing platform was a small group of Braccalian officials, led by a striking woman whose presence made him forget the rehearsed speech he had prepared. Princess Alyssa of Braccalis stood before him, her violet skin catching the sunlight in a way that made her seem otherworldly. Her long silver hair was intricately braided, shimmering with small glimmering beads woven into the strands. However, it was her eyes that commanded his attention. Bright teal and glowing, they studied him with an intense curiosity. Commander Ralston, she greeted, her voice soft yet musical, with an accent that made his name feel almost exotic. Welcome to Braccalis. I trust your journey was smooth? Alec bowed. Princess Alyssa, on behalf of the Federation, I offer our deepest condolences for your loss. Your father was widely respected across the galaxy. For a brief moment, a flicker of emotion passed over her face. Sorrow, perhaps? Before she composed herself. Thank you, Commander. Please follow me. We can speak further in the palace. As they walked through the ornate gardens, Alec couldn't help but admire her graceful movements. Alyssa's form-fitting dark robes, trimmed in silver, seemed to accentuate every step. Around them, royal guards, all male as per Braccal's tradition, stood in rigid silence. I have to admit, Alyssa spoke as they entered the palace, I did not expect someone of your rank for this mission. Usually, we receive diplomats, not warriors. Alex smiled faintly. These are unusual times, Princess. Indeed, she replied, gesturing toward a grand doorway. My father's study. We can talk there. Inside, the room felt vast yet personal, filled with ancient scrolls and artifacts. Alec, sticking to his formal script, delivered the Federation's proposal for increased military presence in the system under the guise of protecting Braccalis after the king's passing. Alyssa listened closely, her glowing eyes never leaving his face. When he finished, she was silent for a moment, then spoke with measured calm. Commander Ralston, she said, her voice now slightly colder, your message has been received. But I sense there is more to this sudden interest in our world than mere protection. Alec maintained his diplomatic facade. The Federation values its alliances, Princess. We are all equals in this union. Alyssa let out a soft laugh, like the sound of wind chimes. Come now, Commander. You and I both know that's not the whole truth. She rose from her seat and motioned toward a hidden door. But perhaps we can speak more candidly once you've had time to rest. Would you be interested in seeing something few outsiders have ever seen? Before he could respond, she was already moving toward the concealed door. My ancestor's legacy awaits. Unless you're not curious enough. Her playful challenge piqued his interest. Despite his professional focus, Alec found himself drawn to her. He followed her through the secret door and down a spiraling staircase that seemed to burrow deep into the heart of the palace. Where are we headed, Princess? Alec asked, aware of how alone they were. To the Chamber of Relics, Alyssa answered, her voice echoing in the narrow corridor. It's where we keep the treasures from our golden age, before we became just another Federation world. There was a bitterness in her tone that caught Alec off guard. He had been briefed on Braccalis as a grateful member of the Federation, but Alyssa seemed anything but compliant. They entered a large circular room bathed in a soft blue glow emanating from the walls. Strange devices and artifacts were displayed in glass cases lining the perimeter. In the center of the room stood an ancient suit of armor on a raised platform, dusty and forgotten, unlike the other meticulously preserved relics. "Behold, Commander," Alyssa said with a dramatic flourish, "the once glorious past of Bracales, when we were innovators, not merely a military outpost for the Federation." Alec moved closer to one of the display cases, genuinely intrigued. "These devices, they're unlike anything I've seen." "That's because they predate your Federation by millennia," Alyssa replied, stepping beside him. Her proximity made him momentarily lose focus. "My ancestors mastered sciences that your people are still only beginning to understand. And yet you joined the Federation," he observed. "Not by choice," she muttered, her voice barely audible. But she quickly brightened and gestured toward the central display. "This armor belonged to our greatest warrior, King Zether. Legend says it chooses its wearer. No one has been able to activate it for generations." Alec examined the ancient suit, a strange sense of familiarity tingling in his mind. Alyssa's lips curled into a sly smile. "Would you like to try it on?" she teased. "Just for fun." Alec raised an eyebrow, sensing a test. "Is that appropriate?" Alyssa waved dismissively. "It's just an old relic now. Nothing will happen." Against his better judgment, Alec approached the armor. "No harm in trying," he muttered. The moment his fingers touched the dusty breastplate, something impossible occurred. A surge of blue energy radiated across the surface of the armor, illuminating intricate symbols Alec hadn't noticed before. The entire suit seemed to vibrate, pieces floating into the air before converging toward him. Before he could react, the armor began to latch itself onto his body, perfectly molding to his human form despite its alien design. It felt as if the metal itself was alive, wrapping around him in a warm embrace instead of cold steel. Alyssa stood across the room, her mouth slightly agape in shock. "This is impossible," she whispered. As the helmet sealed over his head, Alec felt a surge of power unlike anything he had ever experienced. Information poured into his mind, star maps, ancient weapon designs, long-lost battle strategies. A hum of raw energy filled him, both familiar and alien. "Princess," he said, his voice now oddly altered, "what's happening to me?" Their eyes locked across the chamber. Alec's eyes glowed blue through the helmet's visor, while Alyssa's were wide with disbelief, and something else, a mix of fear and hope. "The prophecy," she whispered under her breath. "We thought it referred to a savior from the Aran system, not a human." Alec struggled to process the influx of data. "What prophecy?" Before she could respond, an alarm sounded throughout the palace. Alyssa's comm device beeped urgently. "Your Highness," a panicked voice crackled. "Unidentified ships have entered orbit. They're not responding to hails, and drop ships have deployed." Alyssa's expression hardened. "It seems your Federation's protection has arrived too late. We're under attack." The palace shook as another explosion rocked the building. Dust and fragments of stone rained down from the ceiling. "We need to get to the surface," Alec said, his voice strangely amplified through the helmet. The armor moved as if it were a second skin, light yet powerful. "Wait," Alyssa said, grabbing his arm. "You don't understand what you've just activated. That armor, it chose you." "Explanations can wait," Alec said, already moving toward the nearest exit. "Your people are under attack." Alyssa stepped in front of him, her glowing blue eyes locking with his through the helmet's visor. "It recognized something in you, Commander. This isn't a coincidence. The prophecy spoke of an outsider who would awaken our greatest weapon in our darkest hour." Alec's armor hummed with more power. "And this armor is that weapon?" Alyssa's voice dropped to a reverent whisper. "It's more than just armor. It's the pinnacle of our ancestors' technological achievements, made to fight the Voidran." Alec felt a surge of understanding as the armor systems relayed ancient battles, creatures of darkness, and dying civilizations. "How do you know it's them?" Alyssa checked a small device on her wrist. "Their energy signature is unmistakable." Our sensors just detected their energy rifts opening in orbit, Alyssa said, her voice tight with urgency. It's been generations since they last attacked Bracales, not since we joined your federation and became less interesting to them. Alex's mind raced as he processed this new information against the Federation's briefing he had received. Voidborn weren't mentioned at all. Either the Federation had failed to brief him properly or they had intentionally kept certain details hidden. What? Alyssa asked, noticing his furrowed brow. Nothing, Alec muttered, still turning over the implications of what he'd just learned. He straightened, feeling the hum of power coursing through his body from the armor. Show me the quickest route to the surface. I need to assess the situation. Alyssa studied him for a long moment, then gave a firm nod. Follow me. She moved toward what seemed like an ordinary wall, pressing her palm against it. She whispered an ancient word in a language Alec didn't understand. The wall vanished, revealing a sleek transport tube. This will take us directly to the defensive command center, she explained as they both stepped inside. The tube accelerated quickly, rising up the palace's heights. In the confined space, Alec became acutely aware of her presence beside him. The armor, it seemed, heightened his senses. He could smell the faint floral scent of her hair, feel the warmth radiating from her skin, and hear the subtle change in her breathing. She must have noticed his awareness, because she flashed him a knowing smile. The armor responds to your emotional state too, Commander, she observed. Your vitals are elevated. Alec cleared his throat. Just professional concern about the situation. Alyssa's tone was playful yet knowing. Of course. Before the conversation could progress any further, the transport tube slowed to a stop, and the doors opened to reveal a scene of organized chaos. Officers were at their stations, monitoring defense systems and relaying urgent communications. Your Highness. A senior officer rushed forward. Thank the stars you're safe. The palace shields are holding, but the city's outer defenses are failing. The Voidborn are deploying ground troops. General Duran, Alyssa acknowledged, introducing Alec. This is Commander Ralston of the Federation. He has activated the ancestral armor. The general's eyes widened in disbelief as they locked onto the glowing blue patterns that decorated Alec's armor. Impossible. No outsider could. Evidently, this one can, Alyssa interjected with a calm authority. And according to the prophecy, he's our best hope. Alec stepped forward, his voice firm. I need to see the enemy. General Duran hesitated before nodding toward a large viewing screen. See for yourself. The screen displayed real-time footage of Bracales' outskirts. Dark, shifting figures moved through the streets, creatures that seemed to absorb the light around them rather than reflect it. Wherever they passed, organic matter withered and decayed. The Voidborn, Alyssa murmured. They consume life energy. They leave nothing but empty husks. As Alec watched the creatures advance, something shifted within the armor. A primal instinct, a deep recognition. The armor was designed specifically to combat these enemies, and now it was feeding him the knowledge on how to do so. I know how to stop them, Alec said, his voice surprisingly calm. Alyssa turned toward him, hope flickering in her eyes. Then we fight together, Commander. For a long moment, their gazes locked, more than just a professional exchange. Despite the gravity of the situation, an undeniable chemistry crackled between them. Your Highness, General Duran interrupted, his voice stern. The royal protocols are clear. You must retreat to the secure bunker. Alyssa didn't look away from Alec. Those protocols were written before the prophecy was fulfilled, she replied. My place is with our champion. Alec felt the weight of her words. The armor hummed, its power responding to the intimacy in her gaze. I don't know if I qualify as a champion just yet, he said with a wry smile, but I'm willing to find out. Alyssa closed the distance between them, her hand gently resting on his armored chest. The armor doesn't make mistakes, she said softly. It saw something in you that no one else could. Something worthy of Bracales' greatest legacy. The touch sent a shock of energy through Alec, the armor reacting to his rising emotions. He began to suspect the armor's response wasn't simply a result of battle or threat. It seemed to feed on emotional intensity as well. "Then let's not disappoint your ancestors," he replied, his voice low. Alyssa's smile was both fierce and enticing. "Indeed, Commander. Indeed." As they made their way swiftly through the palace corridors, Alyssa explained, "The armor's primary function is energy manipulation. It can absorb, redirect, and project various energy forms, especially effective against the Voidborn, who are essentially parasitic entities that feed on energy." Alec felt the systems in his suit confirming her words, the neural interface showing him exactly how to harness the power of the armor. "I can feel it teaching me, showing me how to use its abilities." "That's the neural interface," Alyssa explained. "Our ancestors designed it to bond completely with the wearer. You'll become one with it in time." They reached the outer defensive position of the palace, where soldiers were holding the line. Beyond the shimmering energy barriers, the Voidborn moved like living shadows, devouring everything in their path. "Your Highness," one of the soldiers saluted, "the eastern barrier is failing. We can't hold much longer." Alyssa turned to Alec. "Now would be a perfect time to demonstrate your newfound abilities, Commander." Alec stepped forward, raising his hand instinctively toward the faltering barrier. The armor responded immediately, channeling energy through his arm. The barrier, once on the verge of collapsing, glowed brighter, its strength renewed. "Impressive," Alyssa murmured, standing close beside him. "That was just reinforcement," Alec replied, surprised at how easily the knowledge had come to him. "Let's see what else this suit can do." He stepped through the barrier, feeling it part around him like liquid. Alyssa followed, ignoring the protests of her guards. As they crossed the threshold, several Voidborn seemed to sense their presence and surged toward them, their shadowy forms shifting and writhing. "They're drawn to life energy," Alyssa warned. "And you're practically radiating it right now." Alec felt the armor's guidance, and without thinking, he extended both arms. Brilliant beams of concentrated energy shot forth, striking the Voidborn that approached. Where the beams made contact, the creatures screamed, their forms flickering and dissipating into nothingness. "It works," Alec exclaimed, his confidence growing. He advanced toward the enemies, firing more blasts of energy. "Be careful, Alec," Alyssa called out, her voice laced with concern. "The armor draws power from your life force when you use offensive capabilities." He barely registered her warning as he engaged more of the creatures, a rush of exhilaration flooding his system with every successful strike. The armor responded to his movements flawlessly, anticipating his every move. It wasn't until he had destroyed a dozen Voidborn that he began to feel the toll it was taking. A deep weariness spread through his muscles, and his limbs began to feel like lead. "You need to pace yourself," Alyssa said, appearing at his side once again. She held a sleek energy weapon, her posture poised and calm despite the chaos. "The armor will consume you if you let it." Alec grunted, feeling another wave of exhaustion as he dispatched another Voidborn that had gotten too close to Alyssa. "Would it have changed your decision to fight?" She raised an eyebrow, her blue eyes gleaming. "No," Alec admitted, a small smile tugging at his lips. "I didn't think so. Humans and their heroic impulses. So predictable, but still fascinating." Despite the battle, the banter between them felt strangely intimate. Alyssa fired at another approaching Voidborn, and Alec couldn't help but wonder what she truly found fascinating about humanity. "Is that what you find fascinating about humans?" he asked. "Among other things," she replied, a playful grin tugging at her lips. "Your species has a vitality that's rare in the galaxy. It's likely why the armor chose you." They fought side by side, pushing the Voidborn back. With every blast of energy Alec released, he felt more drained, but the results were undeniable. The creatures recoiled from his attacks in a way they didn't from standard Bracalian weaponry. After what felt like an eternity of fierce combat, a brief lull came. Alec leaned against a wall, breathing heavily. The armor's systems flashed urgent warnings in his vision, energy reserves depleting, biological host nearing critical fatigue. Alyssa approached, concern etched on her features. "You need to rest," she said softly. "The armor is draining you too quickly." "I can't stop now," Alec managed. We're making progress. Alyssa placed her hand on his armored chest. To his surprise, the touch felt as if there were nothing between them. The armor enhances all sensations, she explained, noticing his reaction. Our ancestors built this feature to keep the wearer connected to their physical self. Her hand remained on his chest, and Alex suddenly became hyper-aware of how close she stood, how her glowing eyes shone with intensity in the dimming light of the war-torn streets. There are ways to replenish the energy the armor consumes, Alyssa said, her voice dropping to a more intimate tone. I'm listening, Alec replied, suddenly very aware of his accelerated heartbeat. Alyssa's fingers traced gentle patterns across his armor. Certain intense experiences generate a lot of life energy. Combat is one such experience. Fear is another. She paused, her gaze meeting his with quiet intensity. And there are more pleasurable methods. Alec froze, his mind racing. Princess, are you suggesting what I think you are? I'm being practical, Commander, she replied, though her smile said otherwise. The bond between the armor and its wearer is sacred to my people. In ancient times, it was common for the chosen warrior to enhance their connection through ritual intimacy with a royal consort. Alec blinked, disbelief creeping into his voice. And you're volunteering for this ritual? Alyssa's face grew serious. My people are dying, Alec. If there's a way to strengthen you, to give you the energy to save them, do you think I'd hesitate because of some old tradition? Before he could respond, a warning signal from his armor snapped his focus back to the battle. We've got company, Alec muttered, scanning the horizon. A massive voidborn, distinct from the others they had encountered, was advancing from the direction of the palace. We've got company, Alec warned, straightening despite the exhaustion weighing heavily on him. Alyssa glanced toward the source of the threat, her face paling. A Void Lord? She asked, her voice tinged with fear. We need to retreat now. What's a Void Lord? Alec asked, trying to focus despite his fatigue. They're the equivalents of a general, much stronger and more dangerous than the drones we've been fighting, she explained, urgency in her tone. There's a safe house nearby. We can regroup there. As they hurried through the desolate streets, Alec could feel the armor growing heavier with every step, the drain on his energy becoming more critical. By the time they reached the hidden entrance Alyssa led them to, he could barely keep his balance. The moment the door sealed behind them, he collapsed onto his knees. Alec, Alyssa called, kneeling beside him. Her hands moved swiftly to the release mechanisms on his helmet. The armor is killing you. We need to get it off. No, he gasped. Without it, I can't fight them. Without you, the armor is useless, Alyssa countered, managing to remove his helmet with ease. The cool air hit his face like a shock after hours of being encased in the suit. Alyssa's concerned face hovered above him, her silver hair spilling forward like a protective curtain. You need energy, she whispered, her voice low and urgent. And I know exactly how to give it to you. The safe house was no ordinary shelter but an ancient temple. Its walls were inscribed with glowing symbols that shimmered faintly in the low light. Alec lay on a stone altar at the center, still encased in most of the armor, save for his head and hands. This place is sacred to my people, Alyssa explained, moving around the chamber to light ceremonial lamps. A nexus point where our world's energy flows most strongly. Alec's eyelids fluttered, fighting to stay conscious. The armor, it's showing me things, images, knowledge. Alyssa approached, her curiosity piqued. What do you see? The Voidborn. They're not just attacking randomly, Alec muttered, struggling to convey the flood of information pouring into his mind. They're searching for something. Something hidden in the palace. Alyssa's brow furrowed. What could they possibly want? Alec's hand gripped hers weakly. The heart of Bracales, he whispered, the name coming from the ancient memory embedded within the armor. A power source created by your ancestors. The armor was designed to protect it. Alyssa's eyes widened in shock. The heart? It's just a legend, a mythical crystal said to contain the essence of our world's core. My father spent decades searching for it. It's real, Alec insisted, and it's somehow connected to humans. That's impossible. Humans weren't known to our ancestors, Alyssa said, her voice faltering as she tried to make sense of what he was saying. Alec's grip tightened on her hand, desperate despite his weakness. The armor is showing me. Your ancestors visited Earth thousands of years ago. They left something of themselves there, in our genetic code. Alyssa's eyes widened in understanding. That's why the armor chose you. You carry the bloodline of my ancestors within you. A deliberate safeguard. Alec nodded. They knew the Voidborn would return someday. They needed a failsafe. Someone who could activate the armor if your people forgot how. Alyssa sat back, processing this new revelation. So, humans are distant cousins to, more like descendants of a specific lineage. A warrior caste. Alec tried to sit up but failed. The armor now felt like it weighed a ton, dragging him further into exhaustion. Alyssa, I can't fight like this. The armor's draining me faster than I can recover. Her face shifted with resolve. Then we proceed with the ritual. If what you're saying is true, our connection may be even stronger than I thought. She rose with a fluid grace and began removing the silver accents from her attire. The ritual requires direct skin contact with the armor's neural interfaces, she explained, her tone practical despite the intimacy implied. Alec watched her approach, his heart racing. The armor reacted immediately, adjusting to expose specific nodes along his chest and arms, glowing blue points that pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat. These are the transfer points, Alyssa explained, her fingers brushing two of the glowing nodes. The ritual is simple in theory. I channel my life energy into you through the armor systems. The moment her emerald skin made contact with the nodes, Alec gasped. A jolt of warmth and energy surged into him, electrifying every nerve in his body. That's intense, he managed to breathe. Alyssa's lips curved into a smile. We've barely begun, Commander. She leaned closer, her silver hair falling around them like a veil. In ancient times, this ritual was considered the highest honor for both participants. A sacred union of warrior and royal blood. Alec swallowed, his voice rough. Is that what we're doing? Creating a sacred union? We're saving your life, Alyssa replied, but her eyes held a deeper meaning. And possibly my world. What followed transcended any physical experience Alec had ever known. Alyssa initiated the full ritual, and their energies intertwined in ways Alec couldn't have imagined. The armor acted as both conduit and amplifier, transforming their connection into something that bridged the divide between their species. Every touch, every breath they shared seemed to strengthen Alec, and the armor responded, its systems humming with increasing power. Time became irrelevant. There was only the bond forming between them, the merging of energies, and the discovery of a profound harmony between human and Bricalian physiology. The armor's systems grew stronger with each passing moment, drawing its power from their union. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing heavily, Alec felt completely transformed. Energy coursed through him, the armor now feeling weightless, responsive to his every thought. That was, he began, struggling to find the right words. Unprecedented, Alyssa finished, her blue eyes glowing with the residual energy. The armor's power levels are higher than I've ever seen in the historical records. Alec sat up easily, flexing his armored hands. I feel like I could take on an entire army of those shadow creatures. The ritual worked better than expected, Alyssa said, adjusting her clothing. Perhaps because of the genetic connection you mentioned. A comfortable silence settled between them, an unspoken understanding of the bond they had forged. But it didn't last long. The Void Lord will be tracking us, Alec said, his expression darkening. And if what the armor's showing me is correct, it won't stop until it finds the heart. Alyssa nodded, her face hardening with resolve. Then we need to find it first. If my father couldn't locate it after decades of searching, it must be hidden somewhere unexpected. Alec closed his eyes, letting the ancient knowledge flow through him. Not unexpected, he said slowly. Sacred. The most sacred place in the palace. The ancestral throne? Alyssa's eyes widened in realization. Of course, it's been sitting there in plain sight all along. The throne is the heart? Alec asked. Not exactly, Alyssa replied, her voice growing excited. The throne sits upon a dais made from our world's rarest stone. My father always said it was symbolic. But what if it's not symbolic at all? Alyssa's eyes sparkled with newfound excitement. What if the dais contains the heart? Alec stood, feeling the armor respond fluidly to his movements. Then we need to get back to the palace before the Void Lord figures it out. Alyssa placed her hand on his armored chest, her touch sending a subtle current of energy through him, an echo of their ritual connection. What we shared, she said quietly, it wasn't just about restoring your strength. I know, Alec replied, covering her hand with his. In my culture, such a bond is significant. In mine too, Alyssa responded, her eyes lingering on him for a moment before the distant rumble of an explosion shook the temple. They're getting closer, Alyssa said, retrieving her weapon. Are you ready to face a Void Lord? Alec activated his helmet, which formed smoothly around his head. Through the visor, he gave her a confident smile. Ready as I'll ever be. Let's go save your world together. They moved swiftly through the devastated streets of Valoria, the armor enhancing Alec's speed and strength to match Alyssa's natural agility. The city around them burned, buildings collapsing under the relentless assault of the Voidborn. We need to stay hidden, Alyssa whispered as they ducked behind a collapsed wall. The Void Lord will sense the armor's energy if we use it too openly. Alec nodded, the helmet retracting slightly so she could see his face. The palace is still 2 districts away. Suddenly, a scream pierced the air, followed by several more. Alyssa froze, her eyes widening. The residential quarter, she breathed. There are still civilians there. Alec felt the inner conflict take root. Their mission was clear, reach the heart before the Void Lord. Every second they delayed increased the risk of failure. We can't just leave them, he said, already knowing what his decision would be. Alyssa studied him, a complex emotion crossing her features. Most species would prioritize the mission over a few lives. I'm not most species, Alec replied simply. Alyssa smiled softly. No, you're certainly not. It's one of the things I find most intriguing about humans. Your capacity for compassion even at your own expense. Is that an Aran compliment? It's an observation, she replied, her eyes twinkling. A rather admiring one. They changed course, heading toward the sounds of distress. As they rounded a corner, they found a group of civilians, mostly elderly and children, cornered by a pack of Voidborn. The creatures circled their prey, seemingly savoring their fear before striking. I count 12 Voidborn, Alyssa whispered. Too many to fight without drawing attention. Alec felt the armor respond to his thoughts, offering tactical options. I don't need to fight them directly, he said, focusing. The armor's energy manipulation systems activated. Instead of projecting energy as a weapon, Alec created a dome-like barrier around the civilians. Get them to safety, he instructed Alyssa. I'll hold a shield and distract the Voidborn. Alyssa hesitated, clearly uncertain. John felt pain each time he touched the heart, its energy searing through his armor. You can't stop this transformation, the Void Lord gloated. Soon, my legion will arrive. Alyssa, determined, offered a solution. Our bond can purify the heart. The armor responds to emotional energy. We can use that to overwhelm the corruption. John focused on their connection, his love for Alyssa fueling the armor. The heart pulsed, its energy now flowing through him without pain. As he grasped the heart, its corruption unraveled, and the Void Lord's form began to dissipate. We understand its power, John said calmly, banishing the creature. Humanity sends its regards. Each time Alec touched the heart, pain coursed through the armor. You cannot stop this, the Void Lord taunted. Soon, my legion will come. Alyssa, standing by him, whispered, There's another way. She explained that their bond from the ritual could purify the heart, using their emotional connection to overwhelm the corruption. Alec understood. We use our bond to cleanse it. With their bond strengthening, Alec extended his hand to the heart. This time, the energy felt pure, unstoppable. As he gripped the heart, the Void Lord shrieked, but Alec felt only completion. "You're wrong," Alec told the creature. "We understand its power." With Alyssa's hand on his shoulder, their bond amplified the heart's energy. The armor responded, becoming a new form, the Guardian. Light flooded the throne room as the heart's corruption vanished. The Void Lord shrieked, but Alec, now a beacon of power, banished it. The rift's sealing, Alec and Alyssa stood united. The Void Lord collapsed, powerless. As the last rift sealed, Alec fell to his knees, exhausted. Alyssa knelt beside him. "We did it." 3 months later, Alec stood with Alyssa on the balcony, watching the sunset over a rebuilt Valoria. Their bond, deeper than ever, had led them to victory and a new future. "We're more than just a warrior and a queen now," Alec said, his voice filled with hope. Alyssa smiled. "Yes, and together, we've rewritten the prophecy."